I've just, someone just was pushing on my chest or pushing on my throat, and like, oh my God, I can't breathe.
Mm.
Um, Heart was racing. I felt like a dizziness as I looked at all these fucking rides that are spinning around around me, but was able to, like, to my credit, was able to recognize, like, oh, I'm actually like feeling really anxious right in this second.
Mm.
Um, Identified it quickly, and within 2 minutes of that, I thought, I've got to speak this, or I'm going to screw this whole day up, or like, just either like feel really shitty and internalize it for the day, or like be an asshole to my
Yeah,
family,
you're gonna have
or
a freak out and kill somebody. Yeah,
or something like that, right?
yeah.
So I shared it, just kind of like, didn't make a big deal, but shared it with my partner, shared it with my sister. They validated it. They were like, yeah, we get it. Like,
Mm.
understandable. They also saw from a little bit further back that moment where I just for a second couldn't see my son, and I was like looking around. They saw that moment and validated that. And it was really amazing how that quieted that feeling of anxiety. Like, pretty quickly, within 10 or 15 minutes, I felt better. It wasn't immediate, but like, it soothed it. It like popped that balloon.
Mm.
And I haven't had that experience in a long time, of like being out somewhere, being in a social situation, or any kind of situation where it's just like, whoa, it comes at me, um, and kind of sneaks up on me.
Yeah, yeah. Sounds like you were almost at the level there where you're gonna have a panic attack.
It seemed like I was gearing towards that,
Mm.
and again, it comes back to what we were just saying about like the power of speaking it, and the power of reaching out and connecting with other people to help diffuse that. For me, that really helps. But it made me ask the question, and I asked the question, I think the day after or 2 days after, to our community, like, has our capacity does our capacity for anxiety or stress or stressful situations, has that changed? Has that changed while being off work, while going through the machine? Does getting sober, quote unquote, does that change our capacity for stress and anxiety and uncertainty and all of these other negative things?
Mm-hmm.
Were we able to cope better in substance use, or having that? Were we able to cope better? Was that just our own sort of foggy perspective where we thought we were coping better? Were we actually coping better? Or because you sometimes hear like the people who are real champions of recovery, who, oh my God, like, things are so beautiful now, and I just appreciate all of these moments, and everything's so rosy and sweet. Um, and going back to the moment at the fair, I look back at all of the pictures that we took, and I thought, how cool that my two little kids and their cousins were all there having a blast, just experiencing this sort of pivotal memory of childhood, and I got to watch it. I was able to see and appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
But in that moment, struggling to cope with that, has our capacity changed?
Yes, I think our capacity is dynamic, and I think every one of those things that you mentioned changes our ability to tolerate stress. I think we start out with a natural kind of genetic resilience that's then kind of either built up or broken down by our early environment and the family dynamics that we grow up with and stuff like that. But I think, yeah, I have been thinking about whether how drugs impact that in the long term, in the short term, and I know we've discussed how it's kind of how it worked for how opiates specifically worked to our advantage in the short term to get through difficult shifts at work and stuff. And I mean, what I found with that was that once I became a chronic user of opiates, then I did kind of walk around with like it was sort of like having a superpower for stress, but it still wasn't like that was not sustainable over time, and even that eventually, like maybe when I first started, I felt like I was almost completely invulnerable to workplace stress, for example. And then after, say, a year of using opiates chronically, I felt like it was down to like maybe an 8 out of 10, where when I started, it was maybe a 6 out of 10 type of thing. So I was still getting enough of a benefit out of it to continue, but it wasn't like it was before. And then when I stopped opiates, it was as if I was like an infant again. It like literally all my senses were just greatly exaggerated. I was emotionally labile. I couldn't, like I mean, maybe you at first you would like, when you're in acute withdrawal, you have no stress tolerance at all. But let's say a month out, I might have been at like a 2 out of 10. So I could like, I could handle very little on my own. Like if everything was going perfectly, I would still be not doing great. But if there was even the slightest hitch I would have like a full blown meltdown. So
Yeah.
there's a period of time where you can build your tolerance to life back up. You can build your tolerance to some environments back up. But I also think that and I've actually been thinking about this lately, and I almost wonder if, all these cases of PTSD that we're seeing, thinking about, I think the ER nurse is probably the RCMP officer who's working like, anything to do with homicide in particular, or veterans who have fought in any war. I think there's definitely some thresholds that once you cross, it seems very difficult or almost impossible to come back to your baseline as far as what your normal, pre-drug or pre-experience ability to tolerate stress is. So I've kind of been just lately wondering if those systems, is there any way to measure them? We can see some stuff on functional MRIs with PTSD, but I don't know if it's possible to. I suspect it must be possible if you dedicated your whole life to being like slowly kind of starting, like maybe go live in a monastery for a year, practice meditation or something, right? And then from the monastery, start venturing out and doing little mini exposures. And then, over the next 20 to 40 years, you do this massive gradual rebuild of your nervous system. Maybe if you did something like that, then it would be possible to, kind of naturally weave your way back to a 10 out of 10 stress tolerance where you're dodging bullets and it's not bothering you at all. I don't know. It's
but you're bringing up a really good point there, like, and bringing it back to what we know about the machine and about healthcare workers who go off work, or any kind of a professional who gets in with substance use and then ends up getting sent off work, and they're off work for a period of time. And what we know is that period of time is an extended period of time, and longer than they are told it will be, and longer than they want it to be.
Yeah.
But there's for myself, there's such an atrophy that has happened.
Oh God. Yeah. It's very difficult. I mean,
and I guess so. What I wanted to ask myself, what I'm asking myself in this conversation right now is like, I was never asked, like, what level of tolerance do I want to build to? Like, what is my goal level of tolerance? My goal level of tolerance is certainly not to be back in the trauma room looking after trauma patients and all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I left that career, but that period of being off work and being isolated and living in a sense of shame, it isolates you further and it atrophies you further. And there isn't in order to get back to work, and that's why the whole gradual return to work thing is kind of bullshit
Mm-hmm.
because it